Hello again. We are Chris Lee, Max Barr, and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here to do our first NCAA tournament preview. This one, Michigan State and Mississippi State, the 8-9 game. Winner gets more than likely North Carolina. You can catch this one early in the tournament, 11:15 Central. You can catch it on CBS. We'll get the spreads and everything to you in just a minute. But a reminder, the tournament's here. BetOnline is your bracket headquarters for the season with the best bracket contests out there. Odds, lines, info on every game, every round, right up to the national championship. You can access the most up-to-the-minute wagering information anytime from your desktop or mobile devices, even track your bracket real-time all the way through the tournament. Head to BetOnline today. Get in on all the action. Remember to use the promo code BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline. The game starts here. All right, gentlemen, let's start with the SEC team in the matchup. That would be Mississippi State. We saw the Bulldogs in person last week. They scored an impressive upset over Tennessee. They are physical. They have a guard in Josh Hubbard, who is small but mighty and can really hit shots and do some things. Mississippi State really frustrated the heck out of Tennessee, double-teamed Dalton Connect, sent the Vols packing. And, by the way, that was the second time Mississippi State had beaten Tennessee. So, exciting matchup for the Bulldogs, who had a little bit of playing their way in the tournament, which they did in Nashville in front of our very own eyes.
Yeah, up close, they looked phenomenal. We knew that was going to be a good rematch, Tennessee, Mississippi State. We said in the preview that this is the type of team that might give Tennessee trouble, and look, they did a lot more than give them trouble. So both of these teams about 3.5 away from Charlotte. No one's traveling all too far. Ken Palm's got it as a 1-point game. Vegas has got it as a 1-point game. This is one of those that everyone is looking at and scratching their head. One of the 8-9s that's just giving everybody trouble. There's a few different numbers things I'm looking at. Matchup-wise, I really like Cam Matthews on the four-man for Michigan State. Malik Hall, they do a lot of stuff through him. Third on the team in usage behind the two guards, Walker and Hogard. So I really like that angle that Matthews will have on Malik Hall. A little bit more physical. Hall's a little bit more of a slasher. He can step out and shoot the three, but he does a lot of his damage inside. And just Cam Matthews is a different breed. So I really like that angle of how Matthews will take away probably their third highest usage guy. Turnovers, though. That is not in favor of Mississippi State. Mississippi State last in the SEC and taking care of the ball offensively, and Michigan State is third in the Big Ten in forcing turnovers. Those veteran guards, Hogard, Akins, Walker, nasty with steals and getting their hands on passes and whatnot. So Mississippi State is going to have to take care of the ball. If they fall into their old habits and Michigan State's able to force turnovers, get out and run in front of that defense, don't let Cam Matthews, DJ Jeffries, and those perimeter guys get set, Michigan State's going to be able to get some points in transition. I got a few more, but I'll save them for the picks. Blake, what's jumping out to you in this matchup?
Just a disgusting slugfest like we love, I think, for the 8-9 games. That's what this feels like. Disgusting is a good word here because I think it's just they're going to battle. Like, this is just going to be two teams that are just going to go at it, the bully ball style that we love here at Southeastern 14. Max Barr, we do have a representative of the all bully ball team playing in this game. The leader, perhaps, of the bully ball team, and Cam Matthews. So, yeah, I think this is just going to be the first thing I wrote in this game is like, there's my quote, hard to see either team pulling away. Like, I feel like that's the kind of game it is here. And so, but we're used to that with the 8-9 games. And I think just the way these two teams play, it's going to be all about, to me, the game's going to be decided at the rim. And I think that's going to be the big question here, because something we always bring up with SEC teams in the NCAA tournament, how is the game officiated? Because we know sometimes SEC games can be officiated a completely different way than normal college basketball games are officiated. And because I think you're looking at two teams here who are not necessarily going to rely on the three. Michigan State certainly doesn't do that. We know Josh Hubbard has kind of added a dynamic for Mississippi State where they can, but you don't want them relying on the three. You want that to be kind of complementary to everything else they're doing. So I think that's something to definitely circle here, because I do think this is a game that's going to be won at the rim, and how games are called, the depth, all those other things we have to look at, I think, for each of these teams in that kind of scenario, feeling like it's going to be a low-scoring, methodical type game. That's one of the biggest things I think that stands out.
Looking here at my preseason blue ribbon, Michigan State was preseason number 5. Mississippi State also 20, by the way. So two teams that maybe underachieved according to expectations. Of course, Mississippi State's is a lot explainable by the Toulouse-Smith injury. He missed a lot of time. And this is a team that felt like, again, in Nashville, would like the way this team played. Michigan State, a little bit of an enigma with its season. The predictive metrics have the Spartans top 20, Ken Palm, stuff like that. A very good team on both ends of the floor. Maybe not a great team, but certainly a good team, especially on the defensive side, where Michigan State is number 8. And I think it's headlined by the guards. A.J. Hoggard, Tyson Walker, guys who have played a lot of minutes, preseason all-conference type guys. Matty Sissoko, a kid who I think missed some time. When he's on the floor, he's an elite rebounder, 14.3 per 70 possessions. Blocks a few shots. Carson Cooper, also a little bit of a rim protector for them. That's my initial thoughts on the Michigan State roster. What stands out to you guys here, starting with Max?
Yeah, so last year's team had Hauser at the 4, who was just an absolute sniper. Michigan State was one of the best three-point shooting teams in the nation. They were 3rd overall shooting threes, and you saw that in March. They just lit it up. Similar to kind of that UNC team that made a run when they had Manic at the 4, who was like a 45%, sniper. That is hard when you don't face that all year, and then you run into that on a neutral floor in the tournament, and you have to deal with that spacing, and you're not used to it. Can really cause teams problems. They don't have that this year. Malik Hall can shoot the 3, but nothing like Hauser was. And then the other thing that I think is in Mississippi State's favor is, surprisingly, because I was surprised because of how active the Michigan State guards can be, they do not shoot many free throws, really. They're 264th nationally, dead last in Big Ten play. And that's been a problem for for Mississippi State. We've seen Cam Matthews get into foul trouble, Tolu, even DJ Jeffries. So if that weakness of Mississippi State isn't going to be really taken advantage of like other teams might, I kind of like that for the Mississippi State defense. You're probably going to get 30-plus minutes out of Jeffries and Matthews. And then the other thing, and this stat is what's kind of making my pick for me, is the point distribution, where teams score and where they allow points. So Michigan State, of their total points conceded, they allow the second highest percentage of points from 2 in the Big Ten. About 46% of their conceded points are coming from inside. That's second most in the Big Ten. Mississippi State gets the highest percentage of their points from inside in the SEC, just over 53%. So just to kind of dumb that down and not talk like a mad scientist, Michigan State allows a lot of their points from inside, and that's where Michigan State gets all of theirs. So it's not like you have this matchup where Mississippi State's going to be struggling to score inside. They have all these rim protectors that they don't get anything. No, I mean, Michigan State takes away the 3 and is going to let you get what you want inside. Tolu Smith is just getting ready for a big game. That stat right there is kind of what's making my pick for me.
Michigan State has lost 14 games this year. 11 of them have been by 9 points or fewer, and they've played quite a few games that have been very close. And the one thing I always point out, I feel like this time of year, is like, how many bad losses do you have? And they've actually had some of their more questionable losses recently. And I think that's where you start to look at it, right? They lost the game to Indiana. They lost that one to Minnesota about a month ago. Even like Iowa and Ohio State, those aren't NCAA tournament teams. So you have a team coming in here, I think that's, we always say, like, who's playing their best basketball, right? And of course, they also only lost by 5 to Purdue in the Big Ten tournament. But I think what's interesting with them, they are battle tested, and that's something that if you're Mississippi State, you've got to at least look at it. And this is why my pick is going to be tough, because I'll be honest with you, I still haven't decided who I'm picking. They played they played James Madison, they played Duke, they played Arizona, of course they played Wisconsin, Nebraska, all these teams, right? Purdue, Illinois, and I think that's why I look at the experience on this team and those kind of things, and like I go back and forth here. But Max brought up some good points about the areas I think Mississippi State can exploit. All right, I'm gonna send it back to you guys so I can try to figure out who I'm picking in this game.
I'm in your boat. And here's some interesting stuff. Mississippi State was 2-8 on the road, 8-1 on neutral games though. Michigan State was 3-7 on the road, 2-3 in neutral games. But I think Michigan State's games were against some teams that were probably tougher opponents. You go back and look at some of those.
Well,
yeah.
I'm going to bring up something real quick because I saw someone else point this out. Michigan State, outside of the state of Michigan, has not been great in terms of like finding wins because that game against Baylor, that was in Detroit. So essentially kind of a home game, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably their best win away from home this season, because if you look at the rest of them, here's what you see. Maryland, Penn State, Michigan, Minnesota. There's a theme with those teams. None of them in the NCAA tournament. So that, again, other than the Baylor game, which you can't take away because they blew out Baylor, but that was in Detroit. This one's in Charlotte. Of course, they played well against Duke, played well against Arizona, lost by 9, lost by 6. But that was a long time ago too. So that is something that you definitely have to look at. And look, though, I will say this. It's not as though they played terrible, because we brought up the stat a minute ago. They lost by 3 at Illinois. They lost by 3 at Minnesota. They lost by 6 at Purdue. Lost by a point in Indiana. Lost by 5 in the Big Ten tournament against Purdue. So that was kind of my point to lead in, is like this is a game I'd be very surprised if either team wins by double digits. Like I would be stunned, because I think these two are going to mesh well together in terms of playing this game, and I would fully anticipate this coming down to the wire. So,
yeah, and here's, speaking of bad losses, Mississippi State took them against Georgia Tech on the road, not an NCAA tournament team. Southern at home, and I think both those. Let me just double check. I think both those were without Tulu Smith. They were, so maybe you put an asterisk next to that. Really, once we got in the season, the losses were all to NCAA tournament type teams. A loss to Ole Miss on the road, January 3rd. That's when Ole Miss was playing really well and very squarely in the midst of the NCAA tournament conversation. State lost 4 in a row to end the season, but they're to Kentucky, Auburn, A&M, South Carolina, all pretty close. And then, of course, beating LSU and Tennessee before losing to Auburn in what was a tough matchup. And, of course, State was a little less rested, given that Auburn got the double bye. Look, I'm going to cut to the chase, and I'll be honest. I don't have a good feel for this game. When in doubt, a lot of times I will lean to coaching, and not that Chris Jans isn't a really good coach, because he is. And we saw what he did at New Mexico State a couple of years ago. But Tom Izzo's a Hall of Famer. Won a national title, been to I don't know how many Final Fours. That preseason number 5 ranking still is sort of etched in my brain as part of what this team's upside could be. For lack of a better answer, and I do agree it's going to be a close game, and I have a degree of confidence in this pick on a scale of 1 to 10 at about a 2. But I'm going to take Michigan State just because it feels like it's got the higher upside here. But again, no confidence that I'm right there. Max?
Yeah, I differ from you guys on this one. This is one of my most confident plays, I think. I think Mississippi State is going to win this game. It might be close. Both of these teams like to be physical, but I don't even think Michigan State should be in the tournament. I think this is one of Tom Izzo's worst teams. You like to look at teams that are getting better through February. They lost the last 4 out of their 5 of the regular season. Played well against Purdue in the Big Ten Conference. But, I mean, this is a Mississippi State team that also did the same thing. So it's not like you're pulling on anything like, one team's doing terrible, one team's doing great. No. You look at the conference tournaments, Mississippi State could have won the whole thing. Could have won the SEC. And I'm really reaching on that. Not reaching. I'm really banking on that thing. Blake, you kind of said it. I think whoever's going to win this game is going to win the battle at the rim. And I think that there's a clear winner. I'm taking Tolu Smith over Carson Cooper 10 times out of 10. I'm taking Cam Matthews over Malik Hall 10 times out of 10. And I think that's the difference. Yes, I think the turnovers might be an issue for Mississippi State. That's been their Achilles heel. I think that'll be a point of emphasis all week for Jans. And I think this is 2 different teams. I think it's one team that shouldn't even be in the tournament against one that just beat Tennessee by 20 and beat the brakes off them. I'm going Mississippi State here. I'm going confidently. I have them going far. If they lose, my heart's going to be broken.
So there's not a lot at stake here. Just a broken heart. It's no big deal, Mississippi State. There's no pressure because you're just going to break Max's heart. But I told Max before, here's the issue I'm running into. I mean, there are already people who think I'm the ultimate SEC homer. I'm really, I don't try to be, but I'm looking around seeing who am I going to pick against in the first round. Because there doesn't seem to be too many right now that I am confidently picking against in the SEC. And so the thing is, I think Chris Jans, X's and O's wise, is one of the better ones. I think he's really good. And I think that, I know it's Tom Izzo in March, but there's also a great stat. I think it was, where did I find it? I think the Action Network. It's since 2007, yeah, here it is. Michigan State's 11-10 against the spread as a lower seeded team. And in their last 3 first-round games as the lower seed, they're 1-2. So it's not like it's just been, we talk about Izzo and all this other stuff, and it's just a lock sometimes that they're just going to automatically advance and move to the Sweet 16. That hasn't been the case recently. I think I am also going to pick Mississippi State because I think it's what we said. I feel like the front court of Mississippi State, I think they've got the options. And because I said at the beginning, my stance is that this game's going to be won within 15 feet of the basket, I'm going to pick them, but here's what terrifies me. I also said this is going to be a close game. And here's the problem. Mississippi State, relying on them to make free throws is terrifying when you watch them shoot free throws.
Yeah.
They are 324th in the country, 67.2%. So I have no read on this game. I'm not as confident as Max. I guess I'll be the SEC homer and pick Mississippi State, but I don't feel great about it. I don't trust them at the free throw line, the turnover issues you mentioned, but this is not, Michigan State. Ugh. This feels like the gut bracket. I'm just I need a bucket right now because I don't know that I want to pick Mississippi State, but I will. So,
yeah, I'm with you. I kept waiting to look at this matchup and see something pop that gave me a good reason. I didn't. I probably picked Michigan State because of pedigree and coaching, which again, not awful reasons. You've got a coach who's got a history of making some noise with his teams, but again, a lot of respect for the other sideline too. All right, we're going to preview all the games involving SEC teams in this NCAA tournament. Best way to get that, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. That helps our analytics. For Max Barr and Blake Lovell, I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14, presented by Bet Online.